So we are live. Dustin Swaciak is here. He is you're the owner of Real Sharp Knives?
Owner, yeah, owner.
Owner.
We're a little over a year in right now. Yeah,
All right, all right. And I wanted to have him on because I actually we know each other from a long time ago. Our brothers played hockey together. Your dad coached them.
yeah,
And then, kind of haven't talked in a long time. And then I see that you were doing big things. You were, a chef at some pretty nice restaurants. And then again, didn't see anything. And then now you're popping up. And my parents, did my parents go to your wedding? I don't even know.
I think they were there. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they were
yeah,
there.
yeah.
They were
So
there.
my parents went to your wedding, and then they were like, "Oh, Dustin's got this new company about knives and stuff like that. You should check it out." I checked it out, and then you reached out to me, and I was like, "Dude, I would love to have you on." So I
Yeah,
wanted to bring you on, talk about these knives, and learn a little bit. That's the whole thing behind this podcast is I do it. I interview people that I think are interesting that I can learn from and all different areas. So I'm really excited to have you on. So
yeah.
thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate the having me on. So looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
So let's just start off. Like where did you start? Like how did you get into becoming a chef and all those things?
I mean, my old Polish grandmother making pierogies as a kid, like, 5, 6 years old, like going over there to help, and she already was making them and I would help her roll them out. And I always said, like, I'm going to be a chef one day. Like since I've, I can remember career day in like the 7th grade and a chef comes in and I'm like, I'm going to be a chef one day. Like, so I went to Harkness. It's a vocational school during high school. For
Okay.
anyone that doesn't know, so halfway through the day, you go to cook or take auto body or auto tech or anything like that. And I took culinary, obviously, and one of the teachers asks me to come work for the Buffalo Club, which is a double platinum club. Millard Fillmore, the president of the United States, was a president of this club way
Oh
back
wow.
when. Yeah, so huge history at this place. So I was a junior in high school, and he took me and 2 seniors, and they kept me on after the busy season. And I stayed there for a couple of years, and that's like where I really got my start. But I had been, cooking under the table at pizzerias since I've been like 15. So that was kind
Nice.
of the progression to get into like a real deal kitchen. And then from there, it really went to, I went to Park Country Club and I spent 5 years there working for James Roberts, who is a huge mentor, was my mentor and the guy I looked up to. Kind of took me by the neck and my hard-headedness and was like, this is what you need to do and blah blah blah. And he afforded me the opportunity to work all over the country. So
So did you work where else did you work outside of the Buffalo area? You went and traveled?
yeah, so I went to work at a club on Sanibel Island in Florida called Sanctuary Golf Club,
Oh
which
yeah.
is like the owner of the Mets and the owner of Kodak. Like this is big money, like $250,000 to be a member type of club.
Oh wow.
So they paid for me to come out there and like paid for my apartment to come work for a while during their busy season. And then I
That's
went,
awesome.
yeah, it was super cool. And I mean, gorgeous. Sanibel Island is beautiful. I don't know if you've ever been.
I've been once, but it's
Yeah,
I love Florida.
yeah. So I lived in Fort Myers for like 4 months and stayed there and, came back home to Park. And then the next year, I went to go to an apprenticeship or a journeyman program, it was called, at River Oaks Country Club in Houston, Texas. And the Bushes are
Wow.
members. Chuck Norris was a member. So we got to
Nice.
see so the Bushes would come in for a party and drug dogs and bomb dogs would come through the whole club and like inspect the club when they were coming in and stuff. But this was like a big club. I mean, it's the chef there is one of people that's kind of in charge in American Culinary Federation. He does a lot of stuff for that, and he's really highly regarded. We got to see like the U.S. Olympic team practice. The culinary Olympic team would come there and practice.
Really?
I know your buddy Shay was, he competed quite a bit through that stuff. Well, this was like the real deal Olympic team, like what he was like trying to be part of. This was those guys that, went over to Germany to compete and stuff like that. And,
wow.
Actually, my roommate was, he competed in what's called Bocuse d'Or. It's like a two-man best chef. One person gets named from each country, and they go to France, and they compete in Paul Bocuse's name. It's a pretty big deal. So he was like the commis, the sous chef for this chef, and went to this. So I learned a ton there. I mean, huge scale, 100 cooks, like giant club.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I didn't even know that they had like a Chef Olympics type deal.
Yeah,
I knew that. Like I've been to a few of Shay's competitions, and they're awesome. And like he won one in Buffalo. His team that he was a part of won one in New York City, and it was really awesome. I didn't even know that they do it on a global scale.
Oh yeah. My buddy Corey, actually, that was just in the one 2 years ago. It was the first time the U.S. had gold. And
really?
He was youngest member ever to be on the culinary Olympic team at like 23 or 24. This kid is just like a monster. Like,
holy cow!
I've never seen somebody work so hard. Would like work a 20-hour day and then go learn to play guitar. I'm like, when do you sleep?
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool.
So then I came back to Buffalo. Grandpa got sick. My grandma had passed away right as I was getting the job in Houston. And crazy story is I wasn't able to go see her, and she was supposed to get out the next day. And I went in to go see her because I was working 80 hours a week. It was the middle of summer. We were slammed. And I went in to see her, and she wakes up and she says, "That's the last thing I needed was to see you." And an hour after we got home, we got the call that she was gone. So she sat there and held on for me to come see her, and she was supposed to get out the next day. So it was like I didn't understand what she was saying when she said like, the last thing I needed was to see you. And so that she's like, if you get that job in Houston, go, So it was crazy.
That's nuts. I mean, I truly believe that people do that. My grandmother passed away, and it was like, my grandma on my mom's side, and when we all went to the place and we saw her, and then all of a sudden it was a couple days later, she just went. She was like, everybody that needed to be there was there, and she knew it was time to go. So it was nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. My grandpa did the same thing, but the opposite. Like, we were supposed to go to a hockey game, and he was on a vent, and we had to basically unplug him because they said there was no chance. And he would not let go while we were there. And the second we left, it was like, we were like, son of a bitch, you stubborn old Polak, you just had to be.
Oh man. So you came back to Buffalo, and what did you get into there?
I went to go work shortly for Mike Andrzejewski, the owner of C-Bar, to learn to roll some sushi. I spent like 6 months there, and then I went to go take my first managerial job as the sous chef of Shango Bistro and Wine Bar. Okay. And all while I spent about 2 years there, and this is all while, I mean, my brother got me into doing Lortabs and Oxycontin at 15 years old. So this is all while this is all going on. My career, I'm moving around, and I'm in full-blown addiction. I'm working, but I'm going through all this. And Shango ended up letting me go, where we went our separate ways because the drug problem was getting in the way finally.
Wow. So you did all of this stuff while being addicted to opiates.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, there was some times that I would get like a little bit of clean time, or when Suboxone first came out, and I worked the program properly and stuff like that. But all this time, I was dealing with addiction, and that's when I went to go be the fine dining sous chef of the casino, and I had started getting clean again, and then it graduated while I was there from OxyContin and Lortabs and stuff like that to full-blown heroin addiction.
Oh my
and
God.
3 years I lost everything, car, house,
Really?
in debt, everything. I lost everything I owned, my motorcycle, I had nothing. I went to jail,
Oh wow.
went to rehab, went to jail, went to rehab, the cycle. And then it just kind of clicked one day. I was like, this isn't the life I want to live anymore. So
Right.
I was kind of gone for 3 years, and now Buffalo's small. Everybody knows everybody, and the Buffalo chef community is even smaller.
Smaller,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So now I'm knocking on doors like, let me get a job. And everyone's like, yeah, I don't know, Dustin, like you've had some troubles, like they're not telling me that, but I know what's going on,
Right,
one person's
right.
calling one person, and they're like, so finally I get the opportunity at a place called Burning Buffalo Bar and Grill on Hurdle, and they give me a chance to kind of, they had been open for like a year, and they want to reinvent what their food was. And their chef before was, buying a bunch of shit and, pre-made stuff and everything like that. And
Right.
they wanted somebody to come in and really, build a culture and make the food great. And I went in there and I did that, and, people started hearing my name again. The kitchen's the size of your brother's apartment kitchen. It was
Right.
tiny, and they're like, this kid's back. He's doing something. We all want to go eat, and their business started getting much better, and that's when I ended up back with James Roberts to open Dobutsu, the seafood restaurant, focusing in like Japanese, Pacific Northwest cuisine.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I went there and ran his kitchen. Was not the executive chef because he called himself the executive chef, but I was a chef de cuisine. So, which meant, I handled day-to-day operations, ordering, inventory, costing, everything that a chef would do,
Right. And now when you got into that, I mean, when you got that role, you were clean, or was it still?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you've been clean ever since then.
Yeah, I when I got the job at Burning Buffalo, I was about a year sober.
Oh, nice.
So that's about 6 years now.
Congrats. That's that's a tough task, and I don't want to graze over that. I want people to realize, like, being sober. I mean, I know another friend who she like died, and Narcan brought her back type deal, and she's now sober, and she lost everything too, and I was like, oh my God, like, to see that, to hear that, and it's just it's no easy task. So to be clean, sober for 6 years, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a grind. It does get easier, but it's like when you first walk into NA and they say buy a suit, and because you're gonna bury more people than you're gonna get friends. And I've lost so many people. I mean, you were what, 2 years ahead of me, 3 years ahead of me in high school?
Yeah.
I think you were just out when I was coming in, maybe, so
Yeah.
4 years maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's when it, like, the craze happened. That's when OxyContin hit the streets and everything. So it's what we did. I didn't know any better. When I did these things, one day I woke up and I felt shitty, and I was like, oh, well, I take it again and I feel better. And now I'm realizing that I'm addicted. Nobody said, the bottle of Lortabs and the bottle of OxyContin doesn't say on the side, like, if you take 3 days in a row, you're going to be sick with withdrawal. Like, I mean,
Right.
Pharmaceutical companies fucking suck.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, and it's, I mean, at such a young age you got into it, and like you said, it was pretty readily available from what I understand. When we left high school, I mean, I think marijuana was like the biggest drug in high school when we were there. And it was like, oh yeah, and then
Yeah.
when we left, it was, all of a sudden rumors were that, it's Oxycontin and stuff like that. I was like, oh my God. I was like,
Yeah.
that's hard. Like, that's hard stuff. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reality is like they pushed this drug and these painkillers out to everybody, and then the kids got them, and then they become too expensive, and then now you're buying heroin off the street that you don't know what's in it, and now they're putting fentanyl in it, and people are dropping like flies. Like, I couldn't even imagine going back out to the streets to do that. Like, I would, like, there's no trust in anybody, with that, and they don't give a fuck if you die. The problem is if one person overdoses from the heroin, 10 more people call because they heard someone overdose from it because they want it because it's stronger.
That's how it works.
That's how crazy it is. Like, if you hear somebody died from it, like if say your dealer, your buddy died, you would be calling the dealer like, let me get that, because it's stronger. That's how your brain functions when you're doing it.
Holy crap! I would have thought the complete opposite. I would have thought, man, somebody died, they're gonna lose business. But you're telling me that they gain business.
Phone blows up. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
I mean, this was all kind of before, like, I got out right when the fentanyl and carfentanil thing like really blew up. So granted, I was lucky, but many people don't know this, about me, and it's been a path and a struggle, and I have everything I could ever want now, and I own my own business now. So
right, and like that's history, like that's past, and you're not going back there. You're you have too much going for yourself now to even freaking think about that. You're married. Which, by the way, she's beautiful. I saw pictures.
Thank you. She is.
You're married. You have your business. And are you still involved in the chef game? Are you still, cooking anywhere, doing anything?
I miss it. The reality is people don't realize how high stress of a job it is, especially being the chef. And not to complain about kids these days, but kids don't want to work.
Right.
And people don't realize, like, when you're a cook or a chef, you're running 10 hours of the day, especially at a high-end fine dining restaurant. Like, it's one of the hardest jobs you can get.
I agree.
Are you good?
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, my wife just came in. Well, I'll edit that out. Bye. Sorry, I'll edit that out. She just asked.
You're good.
All right, go ahead. So I mean, it's all over though, because when you say that kids don't know how to work these days, what's amazing to me is my buddy owns a pizzeria. He owns Picasso's in Hamburg area, and he tells me all the time, like, man, it's impossible to get good working kids. Like, everybody's just like sitting on their phone, typing away, doing this, doing that, or they're just like, oh, I don't want to do that, or they think they have an option, which it's not. Yeah. You go to work, you do what they tell you to do. Like, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and like being a chef, like the way I was brought up in the business is like least amount of words needed when you say something. Like, yes, chef, no, chef, I don't understand, chef. Those are the only 3 responses you're allowed to say. And if you say no, chef, it better be a good fucking reason. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then the same thing with the chef talking to you, like, especially during dinner service, like quick things you say, like, I need that now, like, I'm not saying please, like that's adding time to what I don't have, you know what I mean? And it came a point that it was like people were getting offended, and I'm like, what are you offended about? Like, we're in the middle, we're in war right now. Like, right. That's what people don't realize. When you have 100 people sitting down and they all want their food at the same time, like, we're in war. Like, we got to get this done. I can't come, rub your back for you and,
right.
Beg you to do something for me. So I just kind of got tired of it.
Yeah.
And the
Burnt
stress
out.
and burnt out. I mean, Anthony Bourdain will tell you the same thing. Also, heroin addict. If you didn't know that, you know.
I did. And is that how he died, or no? He died suicide,
No,
right?
he killed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had that. I won't get into it, but he had that girlfriend Asa, the
Yes.
Triple X movie, and she
Yeah.
got caught with that young boy or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think he had but he stayed drinking and drinking like a fish. So,
Right.
you know, I stayed completely sober for like 4 years, and now I will have a beer on occasion or, you know, a drink on occasion, but I don't like altering my body. The second I feel like I've altered the way I'm feeling, I stop, because I don't ever want to go to that place again.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask you if you had addiction in any other area, like, you know, drinking. So I guess, you know, you were sober for a while there, and now you just one or two, and then you're done. You don't push it to the limits.
No, I won't. I don't like the way it feels. I really only liked opiates, and the reality is I was working 80 hours a week, and they helped me work.
Right.
You know, a lot of people don't know who know me. Like, I left high school 5'2". I dropped out. So when I was working at the Buffalo Club, I said to the chef, I was like, "Can I work full time if I drop out?" And he's like, "Only if you get your GED." So I went and like did my GED without taking any classes or anything, and just took the test to get my GED a year before I was supposed to graduate, and got my GED and went there full time. Now at that point I was 5'2". The next year I was 6'3".
Holy shit!
I grew 13 inches in that year, and I think without the opiates every day, I don't know if I would have been able to do it, because I would have felt the pain of my knees and my joints growing like that.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, the doctor literally said, "What the fuck?" He's like, what have you been doing? I'm like, "Honestly, doctor, everything and anything that should be stunting my growth, I've been doing."
I was just gonna say,
what,
like, that doesn't make sense that you would grow that much, and you're doing, you know, drugs that normally have that.
smoking, coffee, you know, I mean, all that stuff. So it didn't. Maybe I would have been 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I'm only 6'5".
Oh, you're 6'5" now?
Yeah, 6'5" now.
Holy shit! I didn't know that. Wow,
Yeah, man.
that's crazy.
So it's been a long time since we saw each other, and it's a long time since wrestling matches in the basement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember those. But no, I didn't know you're that tall. My God.
Yeah.
So you, I mean, so I feel like I have a very addictive personality, and that's why I've never done any drug. I drink, obviously, but I've never done a drug, and I've never smoked. I don't drink coffee, like, just because I have such an addictive personality. Like, when I go to a casino, like, I'm like, boom, boom, let's gamble.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I can stop. Like, it's not like to the point where it's a problem. Like, did you have any other things that were?
Full blown addict my whole life. I mean, that's how the knives came into play. That's
working 80 hours a week, you have to be an addict to
the lifestyle of cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the funny part is you don't come home and like relax. You come home and you look through cookbooks or go online to see what the newest craze is and stuff like that. But I can remember back to being a kid, like, my mom always tells this story. I wanted to get turntables and I wanted to start DJing, and I literally printed every type of turntable there was, built a binder, and brought like a whole binder full of, like, this is what I can do with it, this is how I'll make money, blah blah blah. But everything I do is 150% when I do it, and it's bad and good at the same time, because I get passionate, but I also can become obsessed. You know.
Right. I would just say that's probably a good thing that you have that type of personality. It's just tweaking it so it works for the best, and not the worst, right? Because like you wouldn't be successful if you didn't have that personality, that addictiveness, right? For sure.
So
we'll get into the knives now, and you know, you started the company when? You said a year,
Uh,
two?
February 31st of last year. Yeah. So
During the middle of
we're
the pandemic. Well, at
yeah,
the beginning of
yeah.
the pandemic. Sorry, at the beginning of
Yeah,
the
right
pandemic.
at the beginning of the pandemic. We had been I had been collecting knives for a long time.
So I saw
Um,
your website, and it's
yeah,
realsharpknives.com, I believe.
realsharpknife.com.
Oh,
Yeah.
sharp knife, yeah. And
Yeah.
you have a little bit of, like, it says about me at the bottom of it, and you talk about how you got into it.
How I got into it.
You bought a bunch of, like, you know, knives throughout your career, and it was shitty, and you know you kept on, you know, basically realizing you're spending every paycheck buying something newer and better
Yeah.
instead of, you know, buying the highest quality right away.
Yeah. And learning about it. And so, I started getting into the Japanese knives at Tabutsu. Go figure. Slicing raw fish and stuff
Right.
like that. So that's when I started getting into the higher end types of knives. And I saw on Instagram this guy making custom handles. I brought a couple of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I do. Um,
Okay.
so
Those
I
are,
saw these
are
are what we put on our blades. Yeah.
okay.
So they're made from stabilized burl that they dye and then inject with resin.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's cool.
and then yeah, I actually just finished them yesterday.
So
So I
you
reach
make
out to
those?
yeah, that's how the business started. That's how
Wow.
that I reached out to a guy that made them, and he told me like $150, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. I'm just gonna go buy the tools and do this. I got
Right.
no woodworking background. I go to Harbor Freight. I buy some cheap bullshit tools that break after like 3 weeks, but I start making a couple, and now after I made one that looks okay, like just okay, I call, email, text message, whatever I can do to every knife shop in Canada and the United States, like buy my custom wah handles, blah, blah, blah. And a knife shop in Toronto called Knife, go figure. Um, he's like, come up here to Toronto and let me see them and we'll talk about it and blah, blah, blah. So he buys 24 of them. And now I'm like, 24? Like it takes me a week to produce one at this point. Like I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So that's how it started, and then I started selling to a couple other shops, and then we were like, all right, well, this isn't a hobby anymore. Let's get an LLC. Let's make it a business. And I'm like, I talked to my wife Tamara, and she is the most supportive woman I've ever met in my entire life. She will support me to the bitter end, and do anything for me. I'm like, hey babe, why don't we just like see if we can buy some knives and open up an online store and see where that goes. Maybe, we just buy the blades and put the handles on them, and maybe I do it on the side. So now when you buy these, first of all, finding wholesalers for these knives is near impossible. You have to go to Japan. Like these guys don't want to sell because they take a long time to make.
Right.
And they don't want to flood the market.
Makes
I'm
sense.
persistent. I emailed these guys, 20 times a piece till finally a couple of them are like, okay, all right, we'll deal with you. So now when you order them, weight limits, or the wait's probably at least a year before you're going to see a product.
Really?
Because they take this long to be made.
Oh my God.
And you have all these other companies that are ahead of you that are actually like, I'm ordering 2 and 3 pieces. These places are ordering 30 and 40 pieces. So who
Yeah.
am I?
Priority.
Yeah, I'm getting the odds and ends. Like, oh, I had a couple extra of these, here you go.
Right.
So, so we start getting knives in, right? And this is like right as the pandemic's hitting. It's like November, which was right at a year from when we ordered knives. And I see that like China thing going on, and I'm like, this shit's coming here. Like I'm telling my wife, I'm like, it's gonna be a mess. Like it's gonna come here, and sure enough, like February hits, and we're putting the LLC together and getting that pushed through, and here it is, March 15th. I get laid off, because I was still working.
Oh, okay.
it was a blessing because I got to focus my time in the website and the knives and the craft and you know, so then we like opened up a pop-up store at 777 Main Street, and we were there for like 4 months, 5 months, just trying to let people know about us.
Right.
We're signing a lease today to open at George Urban and Union, and it'll be a 5-year lease. So we'll have full-time shop open, and we don't just sell knives. We sell kitchen tools, you know, handmade frying pans, handmade cutting boards, handmade, you know, knife magnets and knife racks, and some of that stuff I'm learning to build myself. But we also do knife sharpening and professional knife sharpening. And the difference between pulling your knife through the thing or sending it out to somebody, they're grinding it at an angle that it might not be right for the knife.
So you guys do it the right way.
The right way, yeah. Every knife has a different angle. This is kind of what we use. This is called a whetstone, if I can get it out of the box. This is actually our brand. We have our own brand of whetstones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have your website pulled up. It's it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like the knives that you have, you made all the handles?
The
most of
ones that typically look brown, but any colorful ones are from me. Yeah, that was kind of our thing, is like to bring some life. This isn't gonna come out, but so you soak this in water, and then you freehand sharpen. So you hold the knife at the angle properly, and it's my YouTube channel. You can see how to sharpen. It's got lessons and stuff, and then we teach classes too.
That's cool. So at this new shop, you said it was on in Main Street?
It'll be at it was on Main. It's going to be at George Urban and Union, in that plaza over there by Tops.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know exactly where that is. That isn't there like a Duff's near there?
I think you're thinking of Transit.
Oh yes, I am. You're right.
Yeah.
I haven't lived in Buffalo since I was 17, so I'm a little.
I know
rusty.
you were gone. You were in Florida and then all over.
I was in New York City. I was in Miami. Yeah. So now
I can't imagine how many sky miles you brought up over the years.
I have well over 1.2 million right now.
Fly for free for the rest of your life?
It's if this pandemic didn't hit, I would be close to I'd be close to being an executive platinum, or I'm sorry, a platinum for life. Yeah. So it's you want to keep going up the ladder. I'm almost to the point with hotel points where I can stop staying there, and then whenever I go in there, I'm at the highest level, even though I have no stays with them. So.
Oh really?
Yeah. It's.
Are you still working the same job?
Yeah.
Like. Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah. I still work with them, and here's the thing: is like I'm dying to travel again. This pandemic is going crazy. Like, yes, it's nice, and it couldn't have come at a better time in my life. It couldn't have come at a better time because I just got married.
And she had
6
kids,
months
right?
before that. She has 2 kids of her own that are now my stepchildren, and I was always traveling, so I was always 2 to 3 weeks a month I'd be out. So it was cool, but at the same time, like, it was nice for me to settle down, get a house together, like because we were living in a townhouse when I was up in Rochester, and then I had a condo in Miami that I own. So then I was going back and forth between both, and then all this stuff. So then it turned out, like, this pandemic happened, and I was like, all right, well, we get to spend more time together. And now I've spent more time with them than I have in 1 year. I've spent more time with them than I have in the 4 or 5 years that I've known her. So I was like, it was a blessing and a curse, because now I'm like dying to go back out on the road. I'm like, I need to travel. But yeah,
it's funny because like Tamara would complain about my hours all the time, like, 'cause working till 11 at night, or going in at 10 in the morning. She's like, I never see you, and then all of a sudden it's like every day we're together, and like
in the apartment, and you're like
yeah. And then winter hits, it's brutal because there's not shit to do except snowboard, and like I don't like the cold. Ever since I lived down south, like, the cold drives me nuts.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like
It drives
getting
me nuts,
back
but
from.
I'm enjoying it. This is the cold.
Are you?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm last time when I messaged you when we were in Miami. I mean, that was super nice.
yeah. Oh yeah,
It was.
dude.
I would love to go back.
I'll say this. When the kids are all grown up, my wife Fran and I, we're gonna move to Florida without a doubt.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back down because I love it up north. I love being closer, to family and friends and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But at the same time, I'm like, Florida is where it's at. Like it's got beautiful weather, and they, not being political, but they don't have state income tax. They don't have, like
Yeah.
all that stuff that matters. When like the outside of, like outside of like family and things like that, all the stuff that like matters. You're like, holy shit, Florida's got everything. They got great weather. They got no state income tax. They have, ocean. They have, golf. They have everything. I was like, this is amazing.
You can
It's the
feel
best.
your stress level like bottom out. Like
Oh, 100%.
the second, like I'm a high stress person, and Tamara, first vacation we take is to Florida, and she looked at me after like a day, and she was like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "This is what happens when it's nice weather. There's an ocean I can stare at, and you could just get lost. Like we were in Hawaii, and I'm like, so that's our end goal is to get to Hawaii. Like have a couple shops open, get to Hawaii, fly around here and there.
Yeah.
That's the grand scheme. What we would love to do, but
And so let's get back to the shop. So at the shop,
Yeah,
you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna have, obviously like a display. You're gonna have
Yeah.
all that. You're also gonna do sharpening there. And will you sharpen in front of people? Because you said you do classes. Will you sharpen in front of people?
We'll be sharpening there all day. We do offer classes that so for like $70 you get a sharpening stone and you get the class, and
Oh wow,
the stone's $65.
that's
retail.
awesome.
So you pay $5 for an hour to 2 hour long class, however long you want to stay, basically, because I could stay talking about the shit all day long, so it doesn't really bother me unless I got somewhere to go. I've had some stragglers stay for 2 hours, like just wanting to talk and learn more, because it's fascinating. What these guys do with steel and how they make the knives is completely different than what you're buying from Cutco and what you're buying from even like Wusthof and Henkel, which are big names, that you would see at Williams-Sonoma or
Right.
something like that. So, I mean, I brought a couple knives that we could look at that are in different price brackets. That, and then I'll discuss like what makes the difference and stuff like that. So this is a factory made knife in Japan. So when I say factory made, it means that there's 10 craftsmen working under the same name to produce a product. It doesn't mean that it's rolled out in a sheet of steel,
Right.
stamped, because every knife has to go through a process of either being stamped or forged, where these are forged under a hammer, pot, and they pound them. What that does is compress the steel and makes it harder, and they make them into shape. And then you have to anneal it, which softens the steel, and you have to quench it. So you get it really hot, and then you put it in either oil or water. Japanese like to use water, which is harder to use because it gets the stuff colder faster, so knives often crack. So, so that was like a lower end. This next one is from a company called Naigara Homono. These guys have 350 years making samurai swords and knives. So this is one of our handles. And this is called a Kiritsuke tip nikiri. Kiritsuke just means like sword tip.
Okay.
So a nikiri is a vegetable knife traditionally in Japanese cooking. So their knives are very much purpose driven. Like each knife has a specific design for that use because it's what benefits. And now this is like when we get over the $1,000 range, and
Knives
This is
get that
called
expensive for one knife. It's over $1,000.
I have some that are close to 3.
Wow.
Because retired craftsmen and what they're made out of. This is what's called a hanyaki. And if you see the like wave in there,
Yeah.
that's what you would see on a samurai sword. That's called a hamon. And it's made from one piece of steel. And the reason this is so expensive is because this what's called blue paper steel or agome steel. When you quench it in water without having the other pieces of steel attached to it, it'll crack. So if he makes 10 of these, 4 of them are going to crack. So,
Really?
And then you have to polish it. So that's why these are so expensive and highly regarded.
Wow.
So Japanese knives are typically made with what's called sanmai construction. Sanmai means 3 pieces. So they invented these steels that got harder than any other steel. Agome, shiragome is blue steel and white steel, and they're named for the paper that they're wrapped in after they're made.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different versions of it. We don't have to get into that. But what they do is they take that blue steel or that white steel, or even some other steels that they still use, and they take 2 pieces of softer stainless steel or 2 pieces of iron. And what they do is called forge welding, and they fuse them together. And what that does is, because the steel is so hard in the middle, it'll crack or it'll chip. So when you put that softer steel on the outside, it makes it more ductile. It'll make it have a little bit of give where it normally wouldn't.
Wow. Okay. And now, question: when you go ahead and you get these, like, is this very similar? You've seen Forged, the TV
Fire?
show? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing over there to make these, right? They're pounding it out. They're constantly dipping back and forth. They're doing all that
in the forge. Yeah. And typically in Japan, over coke, which coke is a coal that has one of the byproducts removed, and which is terrible for your lungs, but they like to use coal because they think it burns carbon into the steel. Higher carbon content means harder steel, but it also means that it can rust, right? Because carbon rusts.
Okay.
So they have their old traditions, and samurai swords were made with carbon forges or coal forges. So they heat them over coal, which is really, really hot, and you can only heat a little bit at a time. And then they have what's called a spring hammer. For anybody that gets interested in this, shout out to Kevin Kent, owner of Knifeware. He made a movie called Spring Hammer, and it follows him in Japan, meeting all these blacksmiths and learning how they make the knives and seeing them in work. It's amazing.
That's cool. What? So like spring hammer. What is, like, when I think of spring hammer, I'm thinking it's going to absorb some of the impact. That's what way my brain thinks. Like, what is that?
It's basically leaf springs. To break it down simple, leaf springs that are on a truck, right?
Uh-huh.
They're there, and it's a hammer that the leaf springs force down to hit the metal.
Okay.
So it's like a rod that comes off of the leaf springs, and a motor that turns, and it compresses the leaf spring, right, which pulls it up, and then it lets it go, and it slams down and hits the knife on another piece of metal that it's laying on while it's hot. And that's to forge weld, and that's also to thin the knife out, lengthen it, and to shape. And a really good blacksmith doesn't go to the grinder like Forged in Fire. He can use that spring hammer completely to shape. Like, he might have to grind off a little bit or polish it, but when they're done, the knife looks almost exactly like what it's supposed to look like. Like, Forged in Fire is like, if we're talking about Japanese knives, it's like 10% it touches. Like, what they do over there is a whole nother level. Like, if you've watched an episode of Forged in Fire and they had to forge weld and these guys can't get stuff to stick, that's what these guys do on every single knife. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So I went through your website earlier in the week, and then I'm going through now. I have it pulled up. You sell cutting boards as well. Now, are
Yeah.
these made by you? Because now you're into this like development. Are they made by you, or are they?
Those are made by a friend.
Okay.
His name's Pat. I'm working on that stuff. I just don't have the time. I went from like selling 24 or 36 handles to now having to handle my own knives. And now my main wholesaler orders my handles to sell at his knife shop in Japan.
Really?
So he messaged me. He orders 50. He gets to 50, and then he orders 160. And now he's selling them like hotcakes in Japan on his knives at his knife shop. He owns this little knife shop and is killing it with my handles. So now they're in Japan. So now I'm trading.
Awesome.
Like, hey, let me, like knock $7,000 off of the bill I owe you for handles, which works out in my favor, but it's cool.
That is so cool, man. That is really cool. And now I saw like you have pocket knives.
Yes. Yeah.
Are these now? Tell me a little bit about these pocket knives. I'm a big pocket knife guy. I always have one on.
Well, I'll send you one. Just
yeah, I'm all
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I'll send you one. So Higo no Kami, they were a pocket knife that was like for whittling and stuff like that. Now they're just really common. There's different scales on my website. There's factory made ones, and then there's ones that are made by hand, like this, like a big knife. They're Sanmai construction. They're forged, and instead of just being factory made. So if you're on that page right now, if you look under Tomita, that's like he actually passed away a couple of years ago. That's like a really cool one that I actually carry it. Actually, I have it in my pocket.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, the Japanese culture, they are just like everything that they do is just, next level. They're past the consumer culture, and it's all about like making things to the best of their ability.
So when I looked at that knife, it's got that same edge to it. Is that just a Japanese thing? It's got like that samurai, like you said, that sword.
So what that is the core steel, because there's 3 pieces of steel, right?
Right.
So that's the core steel being exposed, because the hammer, obviously it's not perfectly even anymore. So when you grind or sharpen it, you expose the core steel, and the core steel often has a wave coming through coming through from the softer steels. It's also called a Kasumi finish, because Kasumi finish is softer steel on the outside stays cloudy when you try to sharpen it, so it helps show the difference between the 2 steels.
Okay.
Causes that separation.
No, it's pretty so cool. Yeah, it's so cool. And then I'm interested. Like I'm gonna what do you call it? I'm gonna look at some more of this because it's really cool to see these whetstones. So my wife, she is Laotian and Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And her parents are too.
Yeah.
And they love to cook. So my wife has found really, really sharp knives on Amazon. They're called Kiwi. They're like $8 or $12, super cheap, but really, really sharp. And then we looked at it, and one is already, the tip is bending, because like when you put it in like the drawer or something, like it bends.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I should look at some of these knives for either my wife or my mother-in-law or somebody like that, because these are, they just look more solid, right? Like
it's gonna stay sharp for a year, like for a home cook. Yeah, I mean, if well taken care of, these knives will last a lifetime, and you really like. There's joy when you cut something with it, and it's so sharp that like you don't even feel like you're cutting anything. You're like, this is cool. I kind of want to cut some more stuff. Like, let me go buy a bag of potatoes. Like,
yeah. All of a sudden, the kids are gonna be like, why are we having potatoes every night? It's easy because it's chopped. Or sliced. We're having different types of potatoes every time. But no, so
it makes you.
Go ahead.
It makes you want to cook. Like it really does, because you're like, I want to use this. It's functional art, because these guys, they pour their heart and soul into these things. It's not coming off a factory line. They bust their ass. They're covered in coal dust all day. It's like 1,000 degrees, and they're standing there making these knives. And we do whatever we can to shout out to them and really let it be known, what it means to us that we're able to sell them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty legit. Like I'm amazed because I've never seen knives like this. I mean, I'm not in that industry, so it would be very difficult. But I think it's really cool, and just for the average person, just to have one really nice knife that's versatile. Like what would you recommend for just the average Joe? Like, for example, my dad loves to cook, right?
Yeah.
He's not a chef, but he loves to cook, and he maybe cooks once or twice a week when he's off, things like that. What would be the best knife for him? Because I'm looking at your knives, and you have a million knives. I can't even pronounce any of them, but you have like a million different ones on here. So like, what would be for the average, like modern day not stay at home, but like home chef? What would be the best knife for them?
You want to look into what the all-purpose knives are. Santoku and Bunka are two all-purpose knives. Santoku is the most popular knife in Japan. Every house has. That's what they use the most because you can rock with it, you can slice with it, you can do everything. And then Gyuto, which is the chef's knife, right? It looks just like a chef's knife. That's like your other end. Those are your starting knives. And then you want to look at a couple of things. Do you want stainless steel? Because are you worried that you're not going to dry it off properly? Because if you buy a knife that's high carbon steel and is ironclad, so that means iron on the outside, it will rust if you leave it wet. But it's not to be scared of. People are like, oh my God, it's going to rust in a heartbeat. No, you rinse it with hot water and you dry it off and you won't rust. And what happens is it actually patinas. Just like, Statue of Liberty does, the green patina that's on her. The knife will start to show some cool blues and hues and stuff like that after being used. And then that's oxidation, just like rust is. So once you have a good patina, your knife won't rust anymore. So use it as much as you can.
Yeah,
people get scared of it.
I'm looking here. I mean, it's a good thing, but you have a lot of knives that are sold out.
Yeah, I gotta get on there and update and get some stuff.
It seems like damn.
We had a couple good weeks. It's supposed to be slow season.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm happy that's the case. Like that's really cool. But no, I'm looking at the Santoku and Bunka.
Yeah,
and
you're good.
They are like they're pretty cool knives. I'll say that.
Yeah. And they're smaller, so they're like typically 6.5 to 7.5 inches, depending on the maker and what size it is, which is good for the regular operator. I use a 240 millimeter, which is 9.5 inches. Which seems like it's huge. And then now my wife is like grabbing my 240 off of the rack, and she's like using it, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I kind of like it now." I'm like, "Yeah." Once you get used to it, you realize that it's not that big, but people get scared of the size of it.
Yeah, I mean, so
insert innuendo there.
Yeah, I was thinking it. I was like, nah, we're trying to be professional.
I stayed away. Yeah.
Trying to stay professional. No, I don't mind at all. But so I'm looking here, and you see a Bunka for $215, and then you see one for $160. Is it just the way that it was created, and it could be that carbon one versus the other one? Like, is that the difference in the knife? Like, it's a Manaka blue, and then a Bunka, Manaka blue, and then you have the Minatoshi Nashiji,
which means pear skin.
Okay, so you have those two. What would be the difference between them? And if I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm gonna buy my dad a knife. What one would you go ahead and say if you're looking, and they're both 165 millimeter, they're both the bunka or bunka, but there's a difference in value.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's four things that really come into it. The maker, is he a master blacksmith? Has he been given the master blacksmithing tag? I'm not going to try to pronounce its name. It starts with a D. It's like I'm not even going to try because I'll butcher it. I'm not that good with Japanese yet. Maybe when I get to Japan, but you get a certificate from Japan saying that you are a master of your art.
Wow. That's cool.
So that comes into effect with price. That drives price up. Right now, you're in high demand.
Right.
The steel on the inside, the steel on the outside, and what a guy feels like charging, and what the finish is. If it's a polished finish, which is called magaki, that's like this, it's always a little more money because they have to polish all of the dimples and everything from forging it out. Then there's Damascus, which Damascus is still just cladding on the outside, but it's a way for a craftsman to show his artwork.
Okay.
So all those things come into effect. Those Manaka and Munetoshi, though, they're like two of my favorite blacksmiths.
Oh, really?
Munetoshi's an old man. He's like 83, and he's known all around Japan for making like knives that cut steel and like big, like heavy duty blades. And he makes knives on the side, and he only makes them that way. And they're one of my favorites. It's like one of my go-tos because the heat treatment, the way he quenches the steel and the way he anneals it, it stays sharp so long. And they're a little more rustic, so you can beat them up and they can handle a little bit more abuse. And then you have Manaka, who makes his knives old world style. It's called warikomi. What that means is instead of taking soft steel, your core carbon steel, soft steel, and sandwiching it together, he takes a piece of softer steel, whether it's softer stainless steel or softer iron, and he gets it really hot, and he puts a tool there, and he drives a wedge into it and opens it up and splits it like a hot dog bun. And then he takes the bar of carbon steel and he gets it hot and drops it in there and forge welds it. And what that does is it leaves the spine with the softer steel, which acts as a shock absorber. So it actually will keep the knife sharp longer, but it's way harder to do that this way. Way harder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap. See,
there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, like that stuff, when you go to the store and you buy this stuff, you're like, whatever. You know, like, this one looks cool. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
But you don't realize that there's so much that goes into it. Holy cow.
Yeah. I mean, that's what functional art is what they say, and there's a reason they say it. Like, they won't call themselves artists, but I will. I mean,
right.
I mean, some of the stuff you'll see on the website, like if you're on the website, look up Ken Kagura under blacksmiths. I only have one knife by him because he's been retired for like 10 years, but it's $2,600.
Oh, shit. And that's a huge knife.
Yeah, it's a sashimi knife. But so that guy's cool. He only uses recycled materials to make his Damascus. So there's copper in there, there's brass in there, there's railroad ties, all types of stuff.
Now, is that handle? That's his handle, or is that yours?
That's my handle. That's my handle.
So when you get all these knives, they're all handleless.
For the most I would
part.
say 50%, 50 to 60%. Yeah, some makers won't sell you without handles just because it's their product. They want it to go out the way they want it.
Right.
Other makers will. So.
Wow. Yeah, no, this knife is pretty baller.
It's crazy looking, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love. I mean, the blade of it. It's got this like weird. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's so nice.
So that's the Damascus, and that's the copper and all the different metals that he folded together. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, and he's been retired for like 10 years, and my wholesaler was like, "Hey, I got these Ken Kaguras. You want them?" And I'm like, isn't he not making knives? He's like, yeah, he makes about 5 a year. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
yeah, whatever. And then I found out that they were the price they were. I'm like, yep, these aren't going to sell fast, but you'd be surprised. You know, people are like cult-like about some of these knives.
Really?
Yeah, some of the makers, especially guys that are retired, like that you can't get anymore.
I'm looking at these and I'm at awe on like some of these things where just like, you know, like a $685 knife, you know, and it looks cool. It just looks cool. And then I mean, man, this is the
You're probably looking at Takeshi Saji.
no, Fujiwara.
Oh, Fujiwara, yeah. Denka, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Denka.
yeah, him and his father are the ones that actually invented the way stainless steel is forge welded to carbon steel today. So they have a long lineage of samurai sword making, and he isn't known for making the best looking knife because the fit and finish isn't the prettiest, but he makes one of the sharpest and best performing knives you can buy, and that's why the price is there. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean these are amazing. And now, are you gonna dabble in this in the future?
I would love to. So we're in Japan. We were supposed to take a class with one of my the blacksmiths, where he was gonna take us and have us make a knife with him all day long. But until I can get the shop operating, put somebody in charge, and you know, mess around with some other stuff, because this isn't. I mean, I love this, but I have bad ADD, so it'll be like 3 years, and I'll be like, all right, what's the next challenge? You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I tell my wife. I'm like, this isn't what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I'm going to own these businesses the rest of my life, but we're going to keep, you know, making next move. I'm trying to be the next Grant Cardone over here. You know?
Yeah. No, that's good. That's what you need. You need to always, you know, have a goal in front of you, and if it's, you know, for the next couple of years you do this and get them up and running and still have them, you know, the key is diversification in anything, right? Whether it's diversification in businesses, diversification in learning, whatever, or stocks and things like that. But I think that this is key. This is a great thing that you're doing. I'm stoked for you, and like it truly amazes me. It's really just something I never would have thought of. I never would think like, hey, knife sales is where it's at. You know, like, never would have thought that.
And every home cook should own one. Like, stop buying shit at Walmart. Stop buying cheap stuff like
from Amazon, I did, or my wife did.
You know, sometimes you can get some stuff on Amazon that's not bad. Like the Yoshihiro is a company that sells on there that basically just rebrands. They have blacksmiths that manufacture it and they rebrand it.
Oh, okay.
But come to our website, pick something out, and like I tell you, when you're like, oh shit, I don't want to spend $100, $200 on a knife, but when you get it and you're like 6 months down the road, you're like, now I want another one, because you're like, this is amazing. Like, it's so sharp. It feels nice. It's fun. You know, it really, you know, if for people who like to cook, I mean, it's the best. You would be surprised. Most of my sales are to home cooks or, you know, people that are into knives. They're not chefs.
Right.
Because a lot of chefs just beat the shit out of their knives, you know, or they use the rental knives that the kitchen has.
Yeah.
So, and they don't make any money. Cooks make shit for money, so
that's
why we work 80 hours a week.
Yeah, no. So I'm gonna definitely look into this, because I'll definitely I want to learn and order one of those whetstones, because I think my mother-in-law would love it, because right now they use that, like the stick thing,
the honing steel.
Yeah, the thing like that.
So what that does is, it just, and every knife edge has mini serrations, and what happens when you cut, it pushes the edge folds over, and what that honing steel does is tries to move the edge back into alignment. It's not actually sharpening anything, it's just moving the steel back and forth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, see,
So
I
when
did
you
not know
get
that.
like a Japanese knife, these knives are almost too hard to put on there. It can cause them to chip because this steel is not bendable at all. So what you do with one of these is you get like a leather strap. It's just a piece of leather on a wood, and you just
Uh-huh.
back and forth a couple of times, and your edge is brand new.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I mean, my buddy used like it was almost like I don't know what it was. I can't, but it was like a sander for my pocket knife. It was
yeah.
like a automatic one, and he just went zzz, zzz, and just like kind of like refinished. I don't know. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming that's similar.
Yeah, it's just using a grinder. Yeah,
Yeah.
the only difference is doing it by hand is we can go up to like 10, 12, 14,000 grit. You know what I mean? And a lot of sharpening I do is with natural stones. So there's stones that are mined out of Kyoto in Japan. Like they go break out a piece of the wall of the mine, and it's the right type of sharpening stone. And they're really expensive, but they last you a lifetime and they're cool to use.
So and that's what the whetstones are. Those are the sharpening stones. Those are
Yeah, it's not all of them. A lot of them are made now, but if you see natural stone next to it, that's like if you're looking at them, any of the ones that say Copa are a natural stone, stuff
yep.
like that.
Yeah, I see that. And then you have I'm assuming the grit whetstone. That's manufactured, right?
Yeah. If
Okay.
it has a grit in front of it, yeah, especially the ones that say RSK, those are our brand and stuff.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. No, I'm pumped. I'm and when I'm in Buffalo, we'll have to get together. I did like I said, I didn't even remember where you lived and all that, and now I do, and
Yeah,
now
yeah.
now we can hang
It's not
out and
hard to
grab a
find me, your brother's old place.
yeah, exactly. So that's good. No, this is awesome. I'm super stoked. Yeah, I should be in Buffalo one of these days in the next
Yeah, just give me
month.
a shout.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is really cool. So it's realsharpknife.com,
Yep.
and then
Um,
Instagram,
Real
Facebook.
Sharp Knife. Yep.
Yeah.
Facebook. My YouTube channel I think is under my name though, Dustin Swaciak. I don't.
Okay.
But you can probably search Real Sharp Knife and it'll come up. I'm not sure, but I can.
Okay.
I'll message you over the link to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah, and then basically what we'll do is we will. I'm gonna post this. If you have any picture you want for your post, let me know. I'll use that picture for the promotion thing of it, and then it'll be on YouTube. And then it'll be on all the major podcast thing. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about? I'm not. I don't have to end it. I just figured.
No. We're just hoping to be open. Sign the lease. We're hoping to be open in 3 months. We'll throw a big grand opening. COVID restrictions allowed.
Right.
Hopefully we're like
Hopefully we're past that.
we did like a grand opening with the other one, and we definitely were not in law with COVID restrictions, but it was like a private party. So
Yeah.
in
What?
Buffalo.
So when you open this place up, you're gonna have to let me know. I'll definitely throw it on all the social media stuff on my end as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And yeah, like that's super exciting news to have your own
Yeah.
shop, your storefront, things like that. I'm pumped
We're
for you.
we're excited. We're gonna be able to build. They're like building us a room so I can do my woodworking and handle making. I'm gonna have my office because right now I like go to my parents' house to woodwork in their basement, and it's
Oh, okay.
starting to get dusty. And my mother's ready to kill me. She's like, "You're getting my shit dusty. You can't do that." And then I have the apartment with all the knives. So my wife kicks a knife or a shelf every day and then gets mad at me for that one. So it's worth the money to just, even if nobody comes to the store, because my life will be easier because the women in my life won't be mad at me.
Yeah, and you know what? What's really neat is that you'll be able to really do some cool things. Like to promote a certain knife or. Have you
Yeah.
thought of doing like a knife club, like
So
month, a club or knife of the month club type thing?
no, we haven't. We're trying to figure out a way to do a membership for sharpening.
Okay.
so like a bi-monthly, like 5 knives, at a discounted rate, but so we're trying to figure out some stuff like that. I'm also looking to take on an apprentice or two to learn the handle making and learn sharpening, which would be like a 3-month to 4-month course of, donating your time. I would obviously pay them in some products and stuff like that just to let them know, but I can't really trust anybody to do this stuff until they know how to do it exactly the way I put it out. You know
Right.
what I mean? So,
Yeah,
and
that's the really challenging part of being a business owner where your product is your work. Like
yeah,
making sure that the quality, because well, we talked about it earlier, is like
yeah,
the kids nowadays, they don't want to work. They just think that everything's, I'll go, I'll do whatever they tell me to do, but I'm if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. Oh, okay. Well, that's not how it works. And,
yeah.
their vision of quality might be different from your vision. So it's very hard. So it's cool that you're going to go ahead and look for an apprentice and kind of
Yeah.
do
We'll
that.
hope. I mean, I've gotten some emails about it and kids that, or even some middle-aged guys that wanted to do it. Um, and we're hoping it works out, but it's like I'm sending these handles off to Japan. Like if they look a little different and I get a complaint because I let somebody else make them, I can't have that happen because it can ruin. We're fragile. We're new,
Right. Of course. Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. And our first year was in COVID, and we did okay. It's not like I made any money. I haven't paid myself a cent. That's the price of opening a business.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we've grown in inventory, and we're trying to compete with the big dogs on the internet. Like I'm not even going to say their names because I don't want
You don't want
people
to
to go
promote
to
them.
the store.
I get it. I get it.
No, Kevin out of Canada from Knifeware owns 5 or 6 locations and probably sells more knives than anybody else in the world. He's one of the reasons Japanese knives made it to the United States and Canada. He is a good friend of mine. We speak regularly. He's a purchaser of my handles. He doesn't look at me as competition. He's awesome with me. I've had other guys like cut me out as soon as I started selling knives, and like get pissed off at me, and I'm like, what do you want from me? Like, you knew what I was trying to do,
Right.
whatever.
Well, and on
But
top of that, there's plenty of people out there. If you're threatened by somebody doing the same thing, then maybe you're not doing it well enough, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Right? Like there's a million people that have a podcast. I don't have competition. It's like
yeah,
it is what it is. Like if they want to listen to my stuff because I'm putting out good content, great. If they want to buy your knives because you're putting out good product, great. If not, then maybe you got to step up your game. So you don't have competition.
yeah. It's like I don't look at it that way either. Like I have a buddy who I thought was my friend out of a shop in Canada that was buying handles, and he came here and I taught him how to make a handle. Next thing I know, he's making his own. And he's like, I'll never stop ordering from you. He's like, I couldn't keep up with it. Well, he hasn't ordered from me. He's not
Yeah.
planning on ordering from me again, which is fine. If that's
Yeah.
the type of person you are,
Right.
I don't need that. I don't need your little bit of extra income. Like I'm doing well for myself. But I also, I do business differently. Like he marks all of his knives up and then marks them down at a compare price so it looks like they're on sale, but they're really just marked down to retail. I'm like, why are you doing business that way? Like
Right.
that's not how I am. I'm a straight shooter, and I'm gonna try to take care of people. And people that come into my shop and our cooks will have obviously industry discounts. And I just had a woman, she's keeps buying stuff for her boyfriend that is a cook, and I gave her like 20% off the other day just because I was like, you keep supporting me, like that's what this is about. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm if I can make enough to pay my bills,
Yeah.
and ha, you know um, teach people and create some buzz and create some I'm losing the word, but passion about knives in the area, and now We just lost Williams-Sonoma and the Henkel store, so there's nowhere to get good knives except for Bed Bath & Beyond. So come see me. It's handcrafted. You know, there's can't beat it.
I love it. I love it. Well, I first thank you for your time. This is cool, and I definitely learned a lot. And like I said, I'm gonna definitely figure out what knife to get for my household, and then on top of that, I'll probably end up buying a knife for like my dad or somebody.
Yeah, so let me know so we can. I'll give you a discount code, and I'll send you a pocket knife. So you can have one.
That would be awesome. I love.
Yeah.
I'll send you.
Knives. I'll send you one of the Higos. I'll sharpen it for you first, though, because they only come like halfway sharpened. So,
nice.
I'll tune it up for you. But we're bridging out into like I'm getting straight razors now, like for shaving and shit like that. So, and what we want the shop to be also is for the community. So if anybody else in the area like does make something handcrafted, even if it's artwork, I will make you room in my shop to sell your stuff on consignment.
Oh, nice.
I want this to be a place where we can get back to buying things that are made with love and with energy, and not just about being cheap. This is about handcrafted, you know. So
right.
I don't
Not
even
mass
give a
production.
Yeah. I don't even care if it's a candle. If you make your own candles and you want to come bring them to my shop, I promise you I'll put them on a shelf somewhere and we'll sell them. And that's just because I think it's important that these small businesses after COVID hit, that we come back, because how many are not going to come back from this?
Yeah.
The restaurant industry is destroyed.
For sure.
I mean, absolutely crushed.
No, it's true. My wife is she's a general manager of a restaurant, not a chain or anything else like that. And you know, there's been struggle, but you know, luckily they are one of the only not high end, but higher end restaurants in this area that it is. And you know, they're doing well now. They're kind of like getting back, not to where they were pre-COVID, but they're getting back to where they're making money, and they're like, okay, this is good.
Yeah, but there's probably 4 cooks that are still on unemployment that haven't been brought back. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people. Yeah,
and it sucks. And there's a lot of restaurants that are just gonna say, "I've been in this for 30 years. Like, I'm cutting my ties." You know what I mean? And we'll do something else, and it's devastating. But
sure.
So, you asked about cooking earlier. We hope to take on another one of the lease spaces that we can have a teaching kitchen in, and we'll do a couple cooking classes a week. You know, like a fine dining, multi-course class, and then also you know, knife skills, all that stuff. So that's how I can still feed my passion for cooking, because I still love it, but I just don't love the heat anymore.
Right. That sounds awesome. I love the idea, and I've never done it, but like I love the idea of the cooking class where you sit there. I mean, I can't say I've never done it. Shay, you know, he's one of my best friends, so like he's come over and he's done cooking, you know, where he teaches my dad how to do certain things, or he just made my parents you know, their 40th anniversary dinner, and it was it was like, I think it was like 4 course, you know, and it was everything. It was awesome. It was so good, you know, poached lobster.
Well, he's got that cushy job now.
He's loving it. He kills it there. He's doing a great job there. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sure. He was always a good cook. He was a great cook. You know, like I remember in Harkness, he was practicing for the regional competition team, and I would stay there and hang out with them guys. And me and Shay know each other a little bit, especially from, you know, the industry, and he's good people. And I know he wanted to take this job to help be around his kids more, and that's what the career is, man. You need to choose. Like my old owner James, like I used to ask him all the time, I'm like, how do you do it? You got 3 kids at home, like and you got 2 restaurants, and you're working 120 hours a week. How are you happy? Like, right. I was mad I couldn't see my wife. I couldn't imagine having the little ones running around.
Yeah, no, That's for sure. It's really you're choosing at that time, you know, until and again, a lot of chefs, they don't want to go ahead and be hands off because it's their product, it's their name on the line. You know, I have a buddy who's the executive pastry chef at it was, well, at the other restaurant it was Michelin rated. At this restaurant
Yeah.
they haven't been Michelin rated yet, but it's like he's in Chicago. He was at Brindy and Naha, and
Okay.
he, I mean, it's his name out there. So he wants to make sure that it's like legit, and like it's hard to take time off and hard
Yeah,
to
the
spend
worst
time
thing
with
you
your
can do
family.
is micromanage, though. Like, all it does is you put people in a box, and that's what
Yeah,
I used to try to tell my owner is like, you questioning me every day about stuff is like, I'm doing the right thing. You just gotta like you gotta let people sink or swim, and that's what we hope to do with the business, so we can open another location. But
that's
we
awesome.
actually I never told you we got married in Chicago, and we hit Alinea, Next, Aviary, every one of Grant Ackett's restaurants we hit in 1 week.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, that was the dream.
Yeah,
So
I go to Chicago quite a bit. Well, pre-COVID, I go to Chicago quite a bit, and I love it there. I mean, there's so much fun, so many fun things to do there. It's a beautiful city. It's definitely
a lot of
it's definitely a
walking.
place. Oh yeah, yeah,
We walked like 12 miles a day, like just to walk around the city because it's huge.
yeah. So, well, thank you
All
again,
right.
and
Yeah.
and we'll be in touch. I will we'll change phone number. We've been Facebook messaging. We'll change phone numbers.
Yeah,
and,
I'll send
and
you my
address.
number and everything, and the link to the YouTube and all that stuff. And I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man.
I hope I didn't pressure you into it. I was
No,
just
no,
like,
no. I,
let's
dude,
do this.
I tell everybody, like, if you want to be on, but message me, let me know, because there's so many people doing cool things out there. I don't know. I don't have time. I just see things pop up here and there on Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to have this person on. I had a girl that graduated the year before me. She wrote a poetry book, and I was like, and she was like, yeah, can I be on? I was like, absolutely. I would love to talk to you about it, and learn,
Cool.
what you did. So, dude, anytime you want to come on, you got new things coming out, or you're doing different things, or launching the stores and stuff like that, let me know. I'll have you on. I love it.
Awesome.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Appreciate it. Bye bye.